Welcome, friends, for our second family-friendly live animal interaction. We're so thrilled to have you join us here. My name is Lindsay Carroll, and I'm the Marine Education Coordinator with Oregon Sea Grant. And we run informal education programs out of Hatfield Marine Science Center here in Newport, Oregon. So we're totally thrilled that if you can't be here in person, we're bringing the labs to you. So I'm sitting here in one of our wet lab spaces where we teach classes, and we're going to show off some really cool critters. And so next up is our sea cucumber. Get excited. And so before we get started, though, I want to say the other voice on the webinar here today is Cait Goodwin. So Cait, go and say hi.
Hello.
And we also have Shannon Reed here for tech support. Thank you, Shannon. And so also before we get started, this is a webinar format, and so you will be muted. So we're using the chat located at the bottom of the screen for you to ask us questions. And then also, if we ask you questions, feel free to use the chat to also answer, and we'll have Cait interpret what you're saying to me. All right, does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
We are here to explore critters from the rocky intertidal habitat. And so that is a big fancy word for tide pools. And so just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're gonna set the stage of what tide pools are. So if you've been to the tide pools, feel free to type that into the chat for us and let us know if you've been to the tide pools, maybe describe the tide pools. If you joined us last session, you can maybe tell our friends that are joining us for the first time what tide pools are. But just so that we all can get to the coast, we're gonna zoom you to the coast. We're gonna show you some video footage of the rocky intertidal, and we're gonna define it. So Cait's gonna launch a video. Yep, she's already launched it, thank you. And so you can see how this is rocky intertidal. So you get the name because there's rocks, and then intertidal means this is a space between the tides. So there's gonna be 4 tides throughout the day, 2 high tides, 2 low tides. That high tide brings water that is full of oxygen and food, so it fills up. And then at low tide, it exposes these pools. And so you can see that it's low tide here in the image, and you can see it's diverse, home to a lot of diverse animals. And so because it's an area where there's high tides, there's low tides, these animals they have to have adaptations in order to survive in a space that can be exposed to land predators for some of the day, and then also be exposed to water, marine-based predators throughout the day. So these animals have adaptations, structures like a body part, and behaviors like if you were to go hide. Okay, so we're just setting the stage real quick so that we're all on the same page. So if you joined us last session, thanks for bearing with us. And so we are now at the tide pools. So now it's time to zoom down to our animal. So let's go ahead and zoom down, check out our critter of the hour. Okay, so we've got our sea cucumber who has attached itself. I guess I should probably remove my little finger.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, so we have our sea cucumber. How many have seen or touched a sea cucumber before? Go ahead and tell us in the chat, and I'll get our cucumber oriented into view here.
So we've had some folks sharing in the chat that they have been to tide pools in Seal Rock, which is a great place to tide pool organisms. And one person has actually touched a sea cucumber before.
Okay.
And another person has shared that they have also touched a sea cucumber before. And one person is surprised about the color of this animal. Ooh. How would you describe this color? Kind of a reddish,
like
orange.
Reddish, orange, brown. They can kind of, this is a California sea cucumber, so they can kind of come in like a reddish, orangish, brownish coloration. But there are sea cucumbers that come in a variety of colors. And just to clear the air, this is a sea cucumber. It is an animal. It is not a vegetable. All right. So just in case for those that were wondering, we are not dealing with a vegetable here right now. And so, yes, they come in a variety of this California sea cucumber comes in shades of orange and brown. And so you might see at the top here, there's some things going on. So as we're talking, feel free to check that out. But what's interesting here is we're noticing it's bright coloration, and it's got these spiky looking things. So it's interesting. There's people that are on here that said they've touched these before. I know that it's safe to touch. We have staff here that handle these all the time. They take care of them, they feed them. And so I know it's safe to touch, but if I were a predator, I would look at this and be like, I don't know. There's a lot of things that are telling me I probably shouldn't touch this, eat this, because it has these spiky looking pieces coming off or body parts coming off, right? And it's bright in color, but it is okay to touch it. So I'm going to touch it, and I'm going to tell you that it feels soft. It is soft. How many thought it was hard? Anybody think it was hard? And the spike looking body parts are also soft. So this sea cucumber, you're so sneaky. All right. So you can see the sea cucumber is actually on its side. And so coming from the other side, on its underside, so this is its back. Okay. On the other side are tube feet. Have we heard of tube feet before? Maybe put into the chat some animals that might have tube feet as well. So while Kate's watching the chat, I'm going to tell you that those tube feet are used to hold on. You can see that it's holding on to the side of this container right here.
Ooh.
Right?
Holding on. Lots of people have mentioned that they know that sea stars also have tube feet.
Ooh, yes. Sea stars have tube feet. Sea urchins have tube feet. That's because they're all echinoderms, which is a big word for spiny, echino. Derm meaning skin. Like if our adults on the call, maybe you've seen a dermatologist. All right. And so yes, they're all echinoderms. They have tube feet. They're from Echinodermata, the phylum, right? And so yes, it's going to use these tube feet to stick, because you'll see, as I've mentioned last session, a lot of our animals in the rocky intertidal are going to have ways to hold on. And so tube feet are how our sea stars and sea urchins, they hold on, but they also use them to move. So maybe we might notice our sea cucumber move as we're sitting here. But Kate, I don't know.
A little bit towards you, I think. Yes. Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Actually, some of those tube feet are attached to the side of the tank, and some of them are sort of in the corner, reaching out like little red macaroni noodles. Oh, yeah. And when you touch them, see how they pulled back. There they go. Oh, the autofocus on this camera is pretty fun.
Yeah. So yeah, so they're sticky. So there's stickiness on the tube feet, right, that allows them to stick and to help it move. And so I'm looking at this. If you could guess which side is its head and which side is its bottom. I don't know. How would we find out?
The front end and the back end, right?
Yeah. What's the front end versus the back end? You're noticing that this end is starting to go down, maybe investigating what is down below here in this gravel section, right?
It just let go of the side of the tank. Maybe we can get a better look at that.
Wanting to move around. Oh, this is fun. This is exciting. So I'm just going to tell you, this is going to be its head right here. And then on the other end is its bottom. In science, we call it its anus. Okay. And what's really cool is it actually breathes through its butt. Okay. Do you know many animals that breathe through their butt, or in science, we call it breathes through its anus? Pretty interesting. We'll come back to that. But yes, it has a respiratory tree inside of its body, and oxygen will flow over that respiratory tree this direction, and it's going to get its oxygen from the water that way. So a lot of things in the ocean have gills, right? So this has a respiratory tree. So back to its head. This is its head, and I'm going to gently, very gently, see if we can show. Oh my goodness, look how it's sticking to those. It's getting a little shy, but
let go of all the gravel.
It's letting go of all the gravel. But here is I'm kind of contorting it. I'm sorry, buddy. But maybe we actually have a video of this animal eating. And I'm also, while we're watching the video, I'm going to put some of its food source, which is in this lovely glass beaker. And it loves to eat detritus, which is a big fancy science word for like small things in the water that are breaking down and decaying. It actually likes to eat poop. And so this is actually urchin poop. So Kate, if you want to cue up that video, we're going to watch it at 2x speed. And we're actually going to watch some really cool body parts, and we'll talk about them once we start to see them. I'm going to give the cucumber a little bit of a break just in case it's a little nervous. And so we're going to watch. Okay, so this sea cucumber is on its back. It's flipped over. Everybody see that okay? So it's flipped over, and you're going to start to see out of its mouth. Let's see that circular region towards the top of its head. You're going to see some, they're oral tentacles. So it's like a modified tube feet that it's going to come out of its mouth ever so slowly. And I'm also going to multitask and put some food in here to see if our cucumber might be interested in it.
Oh, there's a little bit of stuff coming towards its mouth, floating in the water.
Yeah, so you see the stuff floating. So it's going to start to spit out, if you will, release its oral tentacles. And you can see on my other video here, on my video, I'm starting to drop some urchin poop and see if it's interested in that. But yeah, you see it's kind of like this beautiful display of these oral tentacles coming out as it's feeding. You can also see its tube feet on the bottom and that beautiful view of those spikes, spiky looking, scary spikes that aren't so scary when I touch it.
This video was taken by one of the aquarists here at Hatfield Marine Science Center.
Yes. So we thank our one of our aquarists who captured this video content so that we could show it to you just in case our urchin was shy. Not our urchin,
or it's hard to see.
Our sea cucumber. Feel free to type questions in the chat as we're slowly watching this feeding process. We're also watching if our live cucumber might actually show us its oral tentacles. I probably shouldn't tell you that right before we started, the cucumber here live decided to show off its mouth. But of course, once the camera's on, you know, they can't do what we want them to all the time. But I hope you're enjoying this video. All right. Do we have any questions?
Let me look at the chat. If you have your hand up, it's easier for us to be able to have your question answered in the chat, and then I can read it out loud because Lindsay can't actually see the chat. Somebody pointed out the mouth tentacles look like snowflakes. Somebody was asking about if sea cucumbers are the same thing as sea pickles, or if that's a different kind of animal that you might have heard about. And we were actually talking about this yesterday, weren't we, Lindsay?
Yes, yes, we were talking about this yesterday, Cait.
I think that sea pickles are more commonly what people are calling pyrosomes that sometimes end up on the beaches. So it's a different kind of animal.
Those are colonial animals.
Yeah. But sea cucumber, there's enough vegetables. I know cucumbers and pickles are are cousins to one another, and both are salty. Somebody wanted to know if sea cucumbers can turn inside out. That's a good question because there is some information about one of the defenses there.
Oh my goodness. So I was wondering if somebody would ask this. So there is a really cool, so there's multiple ways that this cucumber can defend itself, right? We talked about how visually you look at it, it's bright colored, it's reddish orange, it's got what looks like hard spikes, but they're not hard spikes. So that's one defense. The other defense is, I'm going to shift a little bit here. So back to its bottom, back to its anus. So when it's getting attacked by a predator, another defense is that it will actually spit out in this direction its innards, its inner organs. It'll spit out its inner organs from its anus, and it'll actually it'll distract the predator. And so the predator will then nom, 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 munch on the organs that come out. And then the sea cucumber can use its 2 feet to move away to a rock so it can hide. They like to hide under rocks. And so then you might ask, well, wait a minute, can this animal still survive if it lets out its organs, its inner body parts from its butt? Well, yes, it only lets out part of them. And then once it goes and hides under a rock, it actually takes about 6 weeks or so for those inner organs to then regenerate. So it's a pretty interesting defense mechanism. So if you think of squid will let out ink, but it's not quite like letting out your inner organs, is it?
Right. You don't want to do that every day, right?
No, definitely. So that's why they go hide under a rock and then they regenerate their insides, but they don't lose all of them, but just part of them. Some sea cucumbers have like a sticky type tentacle bit, like sticky threads, if you will, that will help entangle and confuse their enemies without having to completely lose their insides. And so if you're interested, there are plenty of YouTube videos that you could probably watch of a sea cucumber letting out its insides. And so I'm actually happy that this one's not doing that. It means it's comfortable, it's not stressed out. So yes, they do let out their innards, if that's what someone was just asking about. Yeah, they do regenerate them.
So one viewer asked if spitting out their insides is a last resort defense mechanism. So it's nice to have a lot of different tools in your toolbox to get away from predators, but this might not be one that you use very often.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I think trying to be, if you think about it, being showy, flashy, bright colored might be that first really good line of defense, because I don't, like I said, we started this off saying, I don't know if I want to touch this if I were as a predator. So that's why it's showy and bright. But then that's why hopefully that last resort of letting out those inner organs maybe the likelihood of something going after because it's showy and bright, it may be a good last resort option.
We also had a question about the color. This is a California sea cucumber, which is sometimes called a giant red sea cucumber. But there's like more than 1,000 species of sea cucumbers around the world, and 30 to 40 species in the Pacific Northwest. And not all of them are this bright color. So they do come in other colors and shapes even. They have the same body structure, all the major parts, but they can look a lot different than this bright red, spiky looking cucumber. So it depends on where they live. There's also a question about, does any animal or human eat sea cucumbers?
Ooh, yes. So I don't know. Cait, would you eat this?
I will not.
So it's actually a really good, oh, go ahead, Cait.
No, I was reading that it doesn't have very much taste to it. It kind of takes on the flavor of the things you're cooking with. But that in some places in the world, people do eat sea cucumbers, and it's in some places in the world, it's thought to be an aphrodisiac. And that could, yeah, but not here as much. How about animals?
So in Asian cultures, they will eat sea cucumbers. I have actually never had sea cucumbers, so feel free to type into the chat if you have. I don't think our cucumber here is very much interested in our urchin poop, but we'll see. But yes, in terms of other things that eat it, not only humans, but there's also fish and sea otters in the wild. Pycnopodia sea stars. It's your sunflower star. It's that big sea star that has like 18 plus arms, I want to say. And so they are very interested. Crabs. And so the thing with sea cucumbers is we actually have to keep an eye on them because a lot of the species are threatened because they're overfished or traded illegally. So they are a hot commodity in Asian cultures in terms of cuisine.
Cool. One other fun fact about sea cucumbers is that they do poop quite a bit, and depending on where they are located in the oceans, if they are feeding on a lot of calcium carbonate rich material, then their poop is very alkaline and contains a lot of calcium carbonate, and that actually helps corals grow their skeletons. So they can poop more than 30 pounds of poop each year and help support the formation of coral reefs in some locations. So they're a kind of important part of the ecosystem in those areas just to help build the reefs. I did not know that until just recently. Is that a little bit, a handful of
that is indeed poop in my hand. Yes. So our friend here, actually, we saw this being removed, expelled a couple hours ago when we first got this critter. So here's an example of cucumber poop. I'm willing to hold it. Don't worry.
Yeah, they're like the earthworms of the marine environment, taking detritus and breaking it down into even smaller organic material. Hey, you know what? It's 12:11 p.m. at this point.
Oh my goodness.
Can you believe it? Time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun. And so, yes, we want to thank our lovely sea cucumber. They can be a little skittish. And so soft, ooey gooey, big teddy bears, right? No, I'm just kidding. All right. So you can come and check out this critter at Hatfield Marine Science Center. But for now, I'm going to zoom back up to me and say thank you for joining us. And we hope that you join the next tour of the Innovation Lab on the next live stage or the main stage live event option for you. And then we'll be back here at 12:50 for our last family-friendly live animal interaction. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.